Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show. Shane Kohler here. Pleasure to be with you today. Looking forward to diving in together. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a free workshop I am hosting next week on April 17th called Attachment. And we are going to do a 90-minute deep dive into attachment styles and how to heal and create a more secure attachment style. Now, in this workshop, you are going to be able to, one, identify and understand exactly what your attachment style is. Two, understand exactly what that means about you in terms of relationship and relating with others. And three, understand specific steps that you need to take for your style that are going to allow you to move more towards secure attachment. And that's where, of course, all the yummy, juicy, amazing things that we want to experience in relationships can actually happen. So I am so excited to deliver this workshop, dive into one of my favorite topics, and really be able to break this down in a way that you can use it and create real change in your life. The workshop is absolutely free. It's going to be held next week on April 17th, 2024. You can register by going to inspiredloveapproach.com/attachment. That's inspiredloveapproach.com/attachment. And I'm also going to leave the link to sign up right below wherever you're listening to this podcast in the description. So please make a point to sign up, show up. We're going to have a great time together. You can sign up at the link below wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here, and let's jump into today's show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Conscious Love Show. Whether you are single, you are in a relationship, or you're healing a broken heart, this show is here to inspire you, to remind you how beautiful, lovable, and amazing you truly are, and to give you the practical tools and insights to navigate from wherever you are right now to the loving relationship that you so deeply want to have. My name is Shane Kohler. I'm a certified transformational coach and trainer with over a decade experience helping people release their trauma and open their hearts to love. I've delivered seminars all over the world, coached thousands of people through my online platforms and programs, and every week I'm coming straight to you with the hottest insights and the best teachers around, bringing you powerful resources and profound conversations to heal your relationship with love, dating, and yourself. I'm so grateful you're here, and if it's your first time, welcome. You can count on me to always show up for you with my very best and a commitment to learn and grow myself so I can serve you to my maximum ability. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. I've got some awesome things planned for you today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show. Shane here. Pleasure to be back with you today. And today we are doing our first live stream on YouTube. So we got YouTube streaming here. Hello to everybody on YouTube. We also have we're live streaming on Podbean. I see some people jumping in on Podbean now. So hello to those of you joining in on Podbean, and grateful to be here with you today. Excited to be jumping into another episode of the Conscious Love Show. So to all the listeners, we've been jumping around a little bit, trying to find some different ways to get the content out there and have different ways to connect with the audience. So it's great. Wherever you're joining us, whether it's YouTube or Podbean, grateful to have you. And thank you for following us to the different places we go as we figure out exactly how we want to distribute the content. I appreciate your, loyalty and sticking with us. We've been doing a lot over here, kind of going crazy, trying to find all the different options and figure out exactly how we want to do it. But I think we're finding something we like, and it's feeling good. So I want to get started with today's topic. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to handle your insecure feelings in dating and love. I wanted to speak into this because I think, it's so pertinent for really all of us, whether you're single or dating or just in your first couple of months of a new relationship with someone. Insecure experiences tend to kind of characterize like that whole journey from meeting someone, getting to know them, figuring out where the relationship goes. There's a lot of insecure experiences that happen along that journey. And I'd say even for many people, you might find yourself 5, 10, 20 years into a relationship And you might even find that even though you're many years into a relationship, the relationship that you're in doesn't have the level of depth or the level of intimacy that you would like to experience in your partnership. And so even in that, like if you're in a long-term committed relationship and you find that it doesn't have the level of depth and intimacy that you want to experience, you've got to recognize like what ultimately creates that is an avoidance of these insecure experiences, right? So after we've been with someone for a long time, we might create a certain routine, get into a certain pattern, a certain way of, living with that person or being in relationship with them where it's kind of the same stuff, different day. And we go through our same routines, and those routines are built in a way where they kind of snuff out the intimacy in the relationship. And a lot of couples feel like many years down the road that, oh, we just lost the spark or we just lost whatever we had. But it's not that it was lost. But what happened was there were certain things inside of both of you that were uncomfortable, that you were avoiding. And you built your relationship in a way where it never rubbed up against those things. Right. And so you intentionally, even if it was subconsciously so, you intentionally constructed a relationship that allowed you to avoid all of the things that were uncomfortable for you. And so insecure feelings paint the landscape of intimacy, right? Like insecure feelings paint the landscape of intimate relationships. And we don't really think about it like that's the case. Like we don't really think about it like these are the experiences that paint the landscape of my relationships. Because, when we think about it, we think about the movies, we think about the falling in love and the going on dates and the kissing and the making love and all the yummy, juicy stuff that we want to experience. Like that's what we think it's about. And I mean, it is about that to a degree. I'm not saying it's not about that, but what we often don't really look at or pay attention to is that in order to even get there, in order to even get to the deeper, more intimate experiences that we really, really want to have, it requires us dealing with the insecure experiences. And to the degree that we deal with those effectively, we open up a lot of depth and connection and intimacy in our relationships. And to the degree that we don't really deal with those effectively, they become limitations, they become barriers, they become places we cannot go inside of our relationship. And maybe a way to put this into context or perspective would be to start by saying that we can only go as deep with another person as we can go with ourselves. And a lot of times, like a lot of you listening right now, or maybe you've noticed this in yourself in the past, or you've seen it with friends, but a lot of us will develop a certain pattern of seeking out relationships that are unhealthy for us, whether it's the typical bad boy attraction or whether it's something else. But a lot of us will seek out relationships with people that are unhealthy for us, with people that don't have our best interest, that aren't the most fulfilling or most rewarding possible relationships we could have. And a lot of times we do that because while yes, they're hurtful and they don't make us happy and they don't have long-term potential and all the obvious pitfalls that come in relationships like that, what they do offer us is the ability to not really confront ourselves in a deeper way, right? Where if we just keep doing the same kinds of things over and over and over and over again, chasing the same kinds of people, ending up in the same kinds of familiar experiences time and time again, dealing with the feelings of, oh, they're ghosting me, or, oh, they're treating me like I'm on the back burner, or, oh, they're not really that interested, or what's wrong with me? Why don't they want me? Right? Revisiting all those familiar feelings, but never moving beyond those familiar things, right? Never moving into something more than those familiar things. Whereas if we were to actually pursue a secure relationship, where that secure relationship would take us, where that secure relationship would push us, would be into a place that's actually like somewhere that's very uncomfortable for us to go, right? Like that would require us to open ourselves up to a level of intimacy and vulnerability that's very uncomfortable. These are all the kinds of things that happen when we kind of dance around our insecure feelings, right? Rather than confronting them head on, rather than really acknowledging them and facing them and being curious about them and exploring them and really, opening that up, We just kind of dance around them. And that's what most people are doing, right? If you think about all the game playing, all the ghosting, all the stuff that all the complaints are about, right? Like everything that happens in the dating world or in like all of this stuff is a way of dancing around our insecure feelings and avoiding the things that really get right into those uncomfortable places and make us go like, I don't know, right? So what I want to talk about today is really how do we deal with those insecure feelings in a way that's going to open up more potential in relationship? Because you've got to realize that like I was talking to somebody about this yesterday is you cannot escape yourself. I was talking to a guy yesterday and he's in a position where like his relationship is getting really serious and he doesn't know if he's ready for the commitment. And he's saying, should I end it now and get out? Should I go into it even though I'm not ready? And he's struggling with all this stuff. And he's saying, is this not the right person? Maybe if it was a different person, it would feel different. And I said to him, I'm like, you are going to find yourself right where you are now no matter what you do. You could run from this relationship to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. You could try to work it this way, try to work it that way, try to take more time, try everything you can possibly think of. But no matter what you do, when you get to this point in a relationship, you're going to feel this way. You can't escape yourself, right? You just can't. Every time you engage with someone, every time you open yourself up to someone in this way, every single time you get to this level of a relationship, you are going to feel this way about it. You are going to have this experience until you somehow transcend that. And, I think we've all kind of been brainwashed into this idea of like the special someone. And I know I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but I think it's important to presence in this conversation because we've been brainwashed into this idea of the special someone. Like it's almost like a savior idea that like someday, somehow, somewhere at the perfect time, the perfect place, without having to do any work on our own or develop ourselves in any way, the stars are just going to align and everything's going to fall into place. And we're going to meet this special someone and they're going to be everything we've ever wanted in a relationship, right? Like and all of the challenges I've had in the past, all of the insecure feelings and all of the avoidant issues or anxious issues or trauma responses or whatever it was, this person is going to be the solution to all of that. And those things aren't going to be there anymore. And it's just simply not true. And, there's not much more to say about it other than that it's just simply not true. But you've got to realize that it's not about the wrong person. Sometimes it is the wrong person, right? If the person is abusive, if the person is destructive, if the person is literally unwilling to like create the same things that you want to create in your life. Like, of course there are reasons that the person isn't right. But generally, generally, if you're in a good relationship with a good person and you have similar values and there's a general attraction between you and you respect each other and you appreciate each other. Like if all those fundamental elements are there, it's not about the person. Like whatever you're struggling with is about you. I think some of us have a historical thing where we've consistently like gone after the wrong people. And so some of us need to actually learn how to seek out the right people. But some of us actually have the right people right in front of us. And we're not able to receive the right people into our lives because of what that secure relationship would call us into or invite us into. So if you can start recognizing that whatever you're experiencing in relationship is revealing something about you. And I would say like, even if it is the wrong person, the fact that that person is even in your life is revealing something about you, right? Like that is a really useful bit of information when you think about it. Like, okay, I am right now entertaining a relationship with the wrong person. What does that reveal about me? And I want to be clear, like, this is not an unworthiness thing. This is not like, oh, there's something wrong with you. This is not like, oh, you're fucked up because you're entertaining a relationship with the wrong person. If you want to take it to a destructive place, that's just going to be a way of beating yourself up. But it's not that it means you're fucked up or there's something wrong with you, but what it means is that you're operating from somewhere that's not particularly the healthiest, that's not going to lead you where you want to be. And you want to look at that and explore that, right? You want to say, okay, so here I am chasing down a relationship or pursuing a connection with a kind of person that I've seen in my past, like with a kind of behavior pattern or a kind of personality or a kind of way of being that I have seen in my past causes me pain, right? That I have seen in my past, it hurts me. And I can recognize that. I can recognize, okay, I'm going down an old familiar pattern here. And this would be a brilliant opportunity to get curious, right? Not to get judgmental, not to get righteous and critical, but to get curious. What's going on for me right now? What's going on for me that I am engaging in behavior and attraction that I have learned time and time again is hurtful to me? And so you start there. You start with this curiosity exploration, like what's going on for me? And then where that might lead you to, it could lead you to, oh, well, maybe I pursue relationships like this because they reflect something that's familiar from my past, from when I was younger, from a certain traumatic environment that I was brought up in or exposed to. Maybe it's something like I pursue these kinds of people because I only believe that these are the kinds of people that would want something to do with me. A lot of us deep down chase the people that we know it would never work with because of the fear that if I were to actually authentically pursue a relationship with somebody that I really, really thought it could work out with, right? Maybe it's that boring person. Maybe it's that like that vanilla person that you're like, oh, well, they're so boring. They don't turn me on. Well, maybe what's really happening is they don't turn you on because you're afraid of actually falling in love with someone like that and having them realize that they don't want to be with you, right? Like that person your whole life that you've looked at and you thought they were boring and they were dull. What if you actually fell in love with that person and then they decided they didn't want to be with you? Some of us couldn't handle that, right? We couldn't handle that kind of rejection. It's easier to be rejected by the person we put up on the pedestal, by the person that we had no hope with to begin with. And what I'm describing right now, like that's an insecure pattern. That's an insecure pattern. That's a kind of a prison that you've constructed for yourself to be able to play out these patterns. And it keeps you, like, I understand, I said this earlier, like the feelings are not good. It's not like, ooh, yeah, this feels great. Oh, I love this. It's not like this is what I want ultimately in my life. But it's familiar enough that it never pushes me into somewhere that I'm uncomfortable with. It allows me to reenact the same experiences that I'm comfortable with. So let's just work with this example. Let's say if you were this person finding yourself in this situation, let's just work with this example for a moment. So you find yourself in this situation of pursuing these same kinds of people and not being attracted to maybe a safe or secure person. And you realize this pattern and you say, okay, this is a pattern that causes me pain over and over and over and over again in my life, right? This is a pattern that just continually hurts me over and over and over again. And I want to change the pattern. So what do? You want to start to pay really close attention to how you feel. And I want to say, like, as I start going into this, I want to say, like, this is the stuff that is like, it's not exciting. There's no instant gratification in this. You're not going to get an immediate result from this. And it is so much easier to just go do something that's going to give you some kind of hit of dopamine, right? That's going to give you some kind of instant gratification, instant stimulation. It is so much easier to do that. But you've got to understand that, like, chasing that is what keeps you in that addictive pattern. So you've got to start to pay close attention to how you feel. And when that person is in your life, in your space in front of you, you start to ask yourself, how does this person really make me feel? And what you'll find is the experience that you have around this person is not one of comfort, is not one of ease, is not one of confidence, but it's some kind of anxiety experience, right? It's some kind of experience that is pretty uncomfortable. And you've been chasing and perpetuating that experience because built into that experience is the illusion that you can fix it somehow, that you can make it better. I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and if you haven't listened to this episode yet, I would really, really recommend this. Her name is Sarah Baldwin. She's a nervous system expert. And just the way she breaks down what happens in our nervous system around experiences like this is brilliant. But in that interview, she talks about the sympathetic nervous system. And she talks about the sympathetic nervous system is what we operate in when we sense there's a problem. And we also sense that we can do something about the problem. And the sympathetic nervous system, when we are operating in the sympathetic nervous system, it is like kind of an anxiety experience. It's kind of like a tension, like a stress, like there's a problem, but I think I can fix it, but it's not fixed yet, but I'm almost there. If I just try a little harder, if I just do a little more, right? It's that kind of experience. And a lot of us have gotten addicted to living in our sympathetic nervous system. It's something that got wired into us when we were very young. It's something that we've perpetually lived in, and not just in relationships, but maybe, in our home life when we were young, at school. I mean, think about like when you're at school and you're trying to fit in and be accepted and be popular, and like all like very much like we're living in our sympathetic nervous system, right? And then you go into work and you're competing for the promotion or whatever. Like so much of life keeps us in this state of like, there's a problem and I'm trying to solve it. And so a lot of us are so addicted to living in that sympathetic state that when we meet someone and that person like would offer us a secure relationship, we don't know how to be with that. To live in the perpetual striving for something is something we know. It's something we understand. But to rest and relax into the safety of all is well, that's something we don't know, right? That's something we don't understand. And so if you start to tune into how you feel and you start to understand that what has become your comfort zone is actually a state of dis-ease. And yes, dis-ease is also the word disease. And living in a chronic state of dis-ease creates disease, right? So if you live this way long enough, you'll end up creating all kinds of illness in your body because you're at a certain point when your system is that tensely wired, it just starts to break down over time. If you can recognize that your comfort zone is actually a state of dis-ease, and you recognize that the feelings that you get around the kinds of people that you're generally attracted to are feelings of dis-ease, and I can start to desire something more. And this is where, like, I think there's a certain evolution that needs to happen personally here. where you've got to start wanting to feel better more than you want to get in a relationship with someone. And like, I really don't think you can make this leap without first making that transition. Because what that really is a statement of self-love, right? Like prior to this point, there hasn't been a lot of self-love. You've been trying to replace the lack of self-love with the love from someone else. And that's what keeps you in that perpetual striving, right? It's like the tank is empty, but this person can fill it up as long as I can get them to do so. And so I'm always trying to get them to fill my tank. And so there's this shift that happens where you start to realize how painful all of this is. You start to realize how much it just fucking sucks to live like this all the time. And so there's a shift internally where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen when I make this change, right? Like, I don't know where my life is going to go after I make this change. I don't know where this is going to lead me to. Like, I don't know. But what I do know is right now, it is critically important that I choose to love myself and prioritize myself. Like, that's all I know. The rest of my life can take care of itself. But right now, I know the most important thing is for me to choose to love and prioritize myself. And so then what starts to happen is this need that you've had throughout your life. And like many of us have chronically lived with this need to get into a relationship with someone. Well, that need starts to lessen now because there's like a reorienting of your priorities. And now what becomes most important is I just want to feel good, right? Like I just want to wake up in the morning. I want to feel good about myself. I want to feel good about the life I'm living. I want to be happy. I want to be alive. I want to have energy. I want to have confidence, right? I want to have pride, not like a toxic kind of pride, but just I want to be proud about the human being that I am. When you make that shift and you start to prioritize that, you have a little more power than you did before. You start to have a little more patience, right? You're not so quickly thrown into these experiences of chasing something. And you can start to pay attention to how do I feel? How do I really feel? As you explore this, as you go deeper into this and you start to familiarize yourself with this new kind of experience, what's going to start to happen is you're going to develop a new baseline. Instead of operating in that sympathetic nervous system, you would operate in what Sarah calls the ventral system. The ventral system is where we all want to be, right? We feel good. We feel confident. We feel at ease. We feel relaxed. We feel like everything is okay, that all is well. We're not worried about things, right? Like this is in the optimal state of living. We would all be in this ventral system all the time. But we live in a hostile world, and most of us were raised in relatively hostile environments, and we've developed an addiction to living in our sympathetic nervous system. And so it requires like an actual kind of practice to learn how to move from one system to the other. Right? To learn how to quiet those anxious thoughts where you just ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. To quiet all that busy energy, to all of your fears and all the things that you've been trying to control and all the striving that you've been doing throughout your life. Well, if I did this, or if I do that, or if I just try harder, right? Like all of that you've been doing your whole life, all the pushing and the forcing and the striving and like all of that, to just somehow say to yourself, like, if I stop doing all of that, things are going to be okay. And to learn to live in a place in your own body where you don't need to constantly be thinking about everything and trying to make sure nothing bad happens and trying to make sure like everything's going to be okay. Where you can live in the present moment and trust that all is well. And you can feel that in your body. And so I know what I'm saying right now might be kind of ambiguous, but I want to tie it all together, right? So if you've been living your whole life in this sympathetic system, and I've been using kind of a typical anxious example of chasing maybe the bad boy or chasing maybe, unavailable relationships. I've been using kind of a typical example there, but this could apply to lots and lots of different situations. If you were avoidant and every time you got intimate with someone, you had to pull away, the same thing I'm describing right there could also apply, because what we're really getting at is the fact that these insecure experiences surface. And rather than allowing it to throw you into the same old pattern that it always has throughout your life, you need to choose to start relating with it differently. When that insecure pattern surfaces and it causes those familiar feelings of anxiety or stress or pressure or overwhelm or, feeling chaotic, feeling out of control, whatever those feelings might be for you, you stop and you sit with the feelings. Right? Our whole lives, I got to do something about it. I got to make the feeling go away. I got to control the feeling. I got to think about the feeling. I got to talk about the feeling. I got to call my therapist. I got to call my friend. If you can just sit with the feeling. And I say this to all my clients in Inspired Love. I told someone this the other night. I said, you're going to hear this so often until you're sick of it. But you get out of your head and into your body. Right? Out of your head and into your body. The mind tries to control the experience. The mind tries to play out every scenario and think of everything that could go wrong and all of that, right? It's just a never-ending control structure in the mind. The mind doesn't release anything. The mind holds on to things, right? When you're thinking about something, you're holding on to that thing. It's not being released. It's not being worked through. It's not being processed. If you've ever wondered about your rumination, why it never leads anywhere, this is why. Right? It never leads anywhere because it's not intended to lead somewhere. It's not intended to resolve something. The mechanism of rumination is intended to hold and keep something. We don't release things through our mind. We release them through our body. And so when you get out of your mind and into your body, when you stop thinking about what's happening and you start feeling what's happening, the tightness and the pressure and the constriction that you've been holding in your body starts to relax. It starts to loosen up. This is where you can actually release and let go of the experience. Now, remember, I said earlier, this is not a quick fix. This is not instant gratification. This is not something you're going to do one time and feel amazing for the rest of your life, right? It is so much easier to go chase another hit of dopamine. But if you do that, if you continue chasing those hits of dopamine, then you find yourself stuck in this cycle, just repeating it over and over and over again. But if you can actually practice enough to choose to stop and just sit with whatever's happening inside of your body, and that can become your new go-to. Right? This isn't, like I said, it's not a one-time thing. This is something you have to practice. So this needs to become your go-to, right? When you're sitting and waiting for that person to text you back, I know it's one of the most common things. I've been through it a million times in my life, right? Sitting and waiting for that person to text back and wondering, what are they doing? Where are they? Are they talking to someone else? Why aren't they texting me back? Should I send another text? Have I texted too often? You're in the rumination, right? If you can literally just let go of it, like they're going to text when they text, and I'm just going to stop trying to figure that out. And instead, I'm going to feel into my body all of the feelings that waiting for this text is making me feel. Or if I was in a relationship and my partner is talking about commitment or getting married or having children, and I'm feeling that pressure inside, like I need to turn and run. Well, if I can resist the temptation to turn and run, and I can instead just get in touch with what I'm feeling, I can move through that experience. I can release that experience from my body. And the next time I'm confronted with that thing, whatever it is, if it's the pressure of commitment, if it's the being attracted to the toxic person, But whatever that is, I won't feel the same way about it anymore. Because what's actually happening is when you were young, for whatever reason, and the reason doesn't even matter. I think so often we can get hung up on, why am I like this? What happened? So many of my clients say, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. I had great parents. They loved me. They were good to me. Why am I like this? It doesn't really matter why it was. You could be in the best of circumstances and still feel terrified as a child for a multitude of reasons, right? It's not about that. What it's about is that when you were young, when your nervous system and your brain and your body was developing, you took on a certain energy. You got wired in a certain way. And for better or for worse, you've been perpetuating that same wiring throughout your life. And now, once you become aware of it and you see that, okay, this doesn't really serve me. And like, look, some of us, the wiring we got in childhood has allowed us to make a ton of money. And in one area of our life, it's made us really successful. But when it comes to intimacy, we just can't connect. And so it's not even that the wiring is all bad, but it might be that there's limitations on it. Right? Because I am always going to create the life that my nervous system can handle. I am always going to create the life that I can feel okay with. You know, I shared earlier that I was talking to this guy yesterday who was struggling with stepping into some of these deeper levels of commitment with his partner. He said to me, that I just don't want every step to feel like a struggle. Right? He said, I just don't want every step to feel like a struggle. Like at some point, I just want to want this. I want to be married and be in love and have a family and have kids. And I was like, I get that, right? This is your struggle, right? This is your struggle. Commitment freaks you out. And every time you have to confront it, it freaks you out. But don't you realize that being alone was also a struggle? Right? Like, don't you realize that every time you're alone, you inevitably end up seeking out a relationship and winding up back in this position again? Like, why do you think that is? Because being alone is just as uncomfortable as being with someone. And so it's uncomfortable no matter how you look at it. The question is, which discomfort are you going to choose for yourself? Are you going to choose the discomfort that can lead you to the life you want to have? Or are you going to choose the discomfort that keeps you in painful, perpetual cycles of repeating old shit from your past? It's uncomfortable no matter which way you look at it. Like, if you are out there chasing the bad boy or chasing the unavailable person or chasing that relationship that could never work, that's uncomfortable. That sucks, right? You are constantly dealing with, I feel unworthy. I feel unlovable. I'm waiting around for a call or a text. They're not getting back to me. Why is this happening again? Like, you're constantly dealing with that. That's very uncomfortable. Going into a secure relationship with someone is also uncomfortable, where you don't feel that hot attraction for the person. That's also uncomfortable. Both situations are really uncomfortable. So are you going to choose the uncomfortable that is going to perpetuate the pain that you've been recreating over and over again? Or are you going to choose a different kind of uncomfortable and see where that might lead you when you open up to something new? Because at the end of the day, it's all a reflection. It's all revealing yourself to you. And I want to take it just a level deeper here, right? There's another level that we've got to go to for this to really be a complete conversation. And I know, like, I'm going to preface this by saying, I know it's not the sexiest or most romantic level of the conversation, but this is the Conscious Love Show, right? And we're talking about a really high level of consciousness around our relationships right now. If you look at our very interesting predicament, we're born into this world as like an isolated being, right? Like in a body on our own, separate from other people, with this deep desire to connect, right? So we're born as an isolated being, but we don't live in a world where we all live in our own huts in the woods by ourselves, right? Human beings have this innate desire to connect. And when we try to connect with each other, all this weird stuff happens, right? We play games and we manipulate and we lie and we cheat and we deceive, but we really want love underneath it all. But we just can't help but do all this weird stuff. And so most of us are just kind of lost in the sea of it. We just find ourselves here with no awareness about who we are or what we're doing, right? I'm just here in this body and I want love and I'm just seeking it and trying to find it, and we're just lost in it. But something I learned a long time ago that has completely changed my life was in every situation to ask, what is this for? Right? It actually comes from A Course in Miracles. The Course says, in every situation, ask, what is this for? If you just take it at face value, I'm here in this body, I'm separate, but I want to connect, so I got to try to connect, and I've got to play this weird manipulative game in order to connect. If you just take it at face value, it just seems awful. But if you ask the question, what is it for? Why am I experiencing all of this right now? Why am I going through all of this right now? Why is this happening? There's a level of it where you can start to recognize that your soul is on a journey here. And that these experiences, whatever you might experience in your love life, in terms of challenge, in terms of disappointment, in terms of fear, in terms of all the different things we might go through, what you can start to recognize is that there's a purpose behind the challenge, that there's an evolution that's taking place, that everything that you experience in dating and in love, whether it's with someone you just met on a dating app, whether it's with your husband or wife of 20 years, everything you experience in love and in dating is kind of challenging you to be more of yourself. It's challenging you to clarify your truth. It's challenging you to be more powerful, to be more worthy, to, in the face of rejection or disappointment or pain or whatever that might be, in the face of all of that, to ask yourself, who am I? And to come up with an answer. And see, this is what I've found. All of the challenges of life have led me to that question, like, who am I in the face of this challenge? You know, when I was alone and I was dating, it was, who am I in the face of this challenge? When I was building my business, or as I am currently building my business and growing my business, right? Or in my marriage, or even when I was in jail, or even when I was getting sober and putting my life together. The question is, who am I in the face of this challenge? You know, if you're in the dating world right now, or even if you're in a relationship, if you are in some kind of relational experience right now that is causing you to feel insecure, that is causing you to question who you are, causing you to question your worth, and you ask yourself, what is this for? Why do I find myself in this position right now? You see, you have the opportunity, in the face of whatever insecurity you're feeling, in the face of whatever doubt and fear or shame or unworthiness, in the face of whatever you're feeling, you have the opportunity to answer the question, who am I in the face of this challenge? I choose to be worthy. I choose to be lovable. I choose to be confident. I choose to be powerful. I choose to speak and honor my truth. I choose to be courageous. I choose to not settle. I choose to ask for what I want. And had you not confronted this challenge in this way, you would have never had the opportunity to experience those parts of yourself, right? So maybe you're out there right now and you're getting ghosted by people, Or you're pining over someone who left or who walked away or who didn't want you. Or maybe you're going through a divorce or a separation after many years. Or maybe you're in a marriage right now and it's a loveless marriage and you feel just lonely and devastated, or fill in your situation in the blank, right? Whatever your situation is, fill it in the blank here. And then ask yourself, who am I in the face of this situation? And then define who you want to be. Something one of my teachers taught me a long time ago, and this can be a triggering statement for a lot of people because I understand we experience some fucked up shit in our lives. But something one of my teachers taught me a long time ago is it doesn't matter what happens to you. It only matters how you respond to what happens. And that's something a lot of people don't want to hear. And I understand it. I understand a lot of people don't want to hear it because we've been through some shit and it wasn't okay, some of the things that happened. And yet at the end of the day, in the big picture of your life, what happened to you doesn't really matter. Only how you respond to it matters. And so you might be going through some season of your life right now that is really hard, is really challenging, is really confusing, is really scary. And you might be thinking that what's happening to you right now is what matters. It's not what's happening to you that matters. It's the question of who am I as I go through this experience that matters. And if you take the opportunity to heal through this experience, then you will come out the other side and you will realize that truth. But if you don't take the opportunity to heal through this experience, then you will come out the other side and you will feel like a victim to this experience. And your life will be defined as being a victim to the things that happen to you. But if you really ask yourself, what is the gift in this experience? What is this experience giving me the opportunity to access or find within myself that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise? Right? What is this illuminating? What am I stepping into because of this experience that I never would have stepped into otherwise? And then you'll find the gift in the experience. And now what happens is, as you go forward in your life, you can never, ever lose what you stepped into. That can never be undone. It's with you forever. That challenge that you faced became the greatest gift of your life because it made you into the person you are, who then went on to attract that amazing love, or who then went on to have that incredible career, or who then went on to live the most amazing life. It was your lowest points on the journey that gave you the tools you needed to get to the high points. But you can never see that as long as you're feeling like a victim at the low points. The times that you feel insecure, and like, I mean, believe me, I say this with a lot of compassion, and I know how real this is, right? Like, I know how real this is. I know how painful so many of these experiences are. But if you can recognize that the reason you're going through this is to bring forth more of yourself, to clarify your truth and stand more strongly in it. And that the more you do that, the more you will create a life around you that reflects that truth in every way. And so it's not an accident. When you feel those uncomfortable things, when you feel those insecure moments, those insecure experiences, when that stuff comes up in your body and it makes you want to run and hide or fight or argue or whatever, right? When that happens for you, can you start to see it as a red flag waving and pointing out the places within yourself that need healing? And can you resist the temptation to make it about, oh, that person ghosted me? Or, oh, that person did this or that? Or can you resist the temptation to make it about that? And actually, if that person ghosted you, can you say thank you for the beautiful gift of ghosting me? Because you doing that have shined a light on something inside of me that needs healing. And now I get to choose who I'm going to be in relationship to being ghosted. And you ghosting me right now has actually revealed within me an old identity that I've been living up until now in my life with relating to these kinds of things in a certain way that hurts me, a certain way that makes me feel unworthy, a certain way that makes me doubt myself, a certain way that makes me question myself. But now that you ghosted me this time, I actually have the opportunity to say, who do I want to be this time around? Maybe I want to be different getting ghosted this time than the times in the past. And so I can choose to work into a more secure relationship with myself. And then the next time I get ghosted, maybe I go, oh, guess not a fit. It doesn't carry as much weight. And then, it's kind of like magic. And you may or may not believe me about this, but I just say, try it yourself and find out. But it's kind of like magic. Like, people will have these visceral reactions to getting ghosted, and they get ghosted over and over and over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden they're like, fuck it, I just don't care anymore. And then they still get ghosted a little bit. But then after a while, they just stop getting ghosted. Nobody ever ghosts them again. And it's like, oh my God, the whole time I was so worried and obsessing about being ghosted, I just got ghosted all the time. And then I chose to stop caring about it, and it still happened for a while. But then over time, it's like I outgrew it. It's like I stopped attracting it because it wasn't such a focus for me anymore. Because I changed my relationship with it, it changed its relationship with me. And that's something you can take my word for it or not, but try it and you'll see it works. In closing today, I just want to say that wherever you want to get to, and I know sometimes the space between where we are now and where we want to get to can seem like a lot. But wherever you want to get to, it's available. That deep, loving relationship, that successful life, like whatever that looks like it's available. But it's not going to happen all at once. Right? It's not like you're not just going to suddenly be swept off your feet by a special someone and everything's just going to poof, be amazing after that. Right? Like that dream is available. But it's going to require you really, I'm tempted to say putting in the work. And I don't even want to say putting in the work because that makes it sound really hard. It's more about being present. It's more about acceptance. It's more about falling in love with yourself and your life in the present moment right now. And like, I don't think that's a hard thing to do. It can be difficult. It could be complex because we're not used to it. It's unfamiliar to us. We've been wired differently. But it's not really that hard, right? Like I've said to so many of my clients over the years, like, love yourself enough to just stop punishing yourself for being single. Right? Like, love yourself enough to give yourself the freedom to be happy right now. And anything that comes up that takes away from your happiness, as I've said already, start getting curious about it. Withhold the judgment. Withhold the pressure. Withhold the blame. Withhold the guilt. And just get curious about it. And just start to see what that's revealing to you. And stop being in a hurry to get somewhere. And start being more interested in where you are right now. Instead of being in a hurry to get somewhere you want to be, focus on experiencing the fullness of this moment, which I promise you, you're only in touch with a very small piece of it. And as you start to embody more of that, and you start to accept more of that and feel more of the fullness of yourself alive in every moment, the ways and the paths to everything you want in life are going to become clear. But prioritize being in that place over getting what you want. And focus on healing everything that takes you out of that place. That's the secret to life. So I'm going to close out with that today. I just want to say in closing, thank you all for being here. It's been great connecting on these different platforms. I have a YouTube here and Podbean here, and able to have a handful of people on each. So it's great to be able to live stream and connect with everybody in this way. Thank you for being on today. If it is your first time with me, welcome. And thank you so much for being here. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. And thank you again for listening. I appreciate all of it. I will be live streaming here every Tuesday. So I'll be live streaming on YouTube and on Podbean every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, the podcast will be available weekly on the regular platforms. So you can find it all there. But I do just want to say thank you, everybody, for being with me today, sending you so much love. And it's always a pleasure. I also do just want to make an invitation for Inspired Love. If what we've been talking about today has touched you and you're ready to really heal those insecure feelings that come up time and time again. And, it's like, no matter where you go, if you go this way, you get them. If you go that way, you get them. It's just kind of that barrier that continues to be in your way. And if you're really ready to heal that, Inspired Love is a process where I will take you by the hand and walk you step by step through that journey, alongside an amazing, loving, supportive community. Really, we do have the most amazing community. And it's really just such a great thing to be a part of and such a great environment to heal in. And, I have the opportunity to witness these miracles just happening in people's lives week after week in these sessions. So I do just want to put that invite out there. If you're interested and you're ready to do that work, that is a place you can do it. I will leave the link to apply in the description under today's episode. So again, so much love to all of you. Thank you for being with me today. It's always a pleasure to be here. I will see you back here next Tuesday. Lots of love, many blessings. Take care, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody. Thanks again for checking out the show. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on the most. And I would love it so much if you leave a review and tell people what you think of us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @theliving_relationship to connect more closely. And I'm grateful to be supporting you on your journey to love.